King Adeyemi sat back in his chair, bored of reading the numerous reports from the war that were scattered all over his desk. He had been at it for hours, and it was pretty clear that his armies had the war sewn up tight. He didn't really need to pore over these reports and come up with any brilliant strategies or the like. A sudden knock at the door disturbed his weary thoughts. He looked up to see his personal servant enter the small room. "What is it?" he demanded impatiently when the servant did not speak immediately. "A negotiator from Dahomey has arrived, Your Majesty," said the servant. Adeyemi smiled. "Your Majesty," he liked the way that sounded. "A negotiator," snorted Adeyemi in contempt. "We've practically already defeated them. It's a little late to start negotiating." "Nevertheless, Your Majesty, she is here to meet with you." "Very well," sighed Adeyemi. "Send her in." No doubt the negotiator would be desperate, Adeyemi thought to himself. Perhaps he could use that to his advantage, and this wouldn't be the complete waste of time he was expecting, after all. Moments later, the Dahomey negotiator entered the room, flanked by two of Adeyemi's guards. The king sucked in a deep breath at the sight of her. The woman was a towering beauty, just over 6 feet tall, so she practically dwarfed Adeyemi's 5.5 feet of height. She wore the traditional leathers of her tribes, a short skirt that displayed her long, well-muscled and toned legs, and a small studded leather halter that pushed up her 2 ample breasts. Although the Dahomey negotiator was tall and physically dominating, she was also very beautiful. "Your Highness, King Lere," said the woman, bowing low and giving Adeyemi a good look down the front of her deep cleavage. The fact she called him by his father's name made it clear she did not know they had killed the king in the conflict, and Adeyemi had no intention of letting on. Adeyemi moved directly in front of the woman and stroked a finger along the line of her cheekbone, as if assessing her. "Your queen has sent you to me to negotiate surrender." "Negotiate peace," corrected the negotiator. They were too proud a tribe to admit defeat. "I see," replied Adeyemi. His hand dropped from her face to trace the line of her deep cleavage. The woman froze at his intimate touch. Normally, no male would have dared touch her, but here in the heart of the enemy stronghold, she would not live long if she struck their king. "The queen is willing to call an end to this bloody and senseless war on the following terms," began the negotiator, her voice quavering slightly as Adeyemi continued on, unperturbed. "The queen will give you all our lands to the south of the Atlantic Ocean. She will give you 100 of our male slaves and 10 chests of pure gold." Adeyemi ignored what the negotiator was saying, too busy enjoying the beautiful spectacle in front of him, of the negotiator, a beauty in all ramifications. He spread his legs ajar while listening to her. The negotiator continued speaking, but was getting more and more angry at the king's provocative ogle. In her society, no male would have dared such a thing. Adeyemi licked his lips as he watched her. "In return for these concessions, you will leave our lands in peace and spare the lives of our warriors. Our 2 nations will be allies from this day forth," said the negotiator through gritted teeth. Adeyemi threw his head back, laughing loudly at the Amazon. Did she dare to make demands of him? Her army had already lost. There was no need for him to give up anything. The mere fact that she had endured his optical assault on her without it showing in her decorum, or at the very least walking out, told Adeyemi how desperate the queen obviously was. Before he responded, King Adeyemi made a mental note to reward General Sei for his excellent work. Adeyemi stopped laughing and scowled at the negotiator. He reached out and grabbed a handful of her long hair and yanked her across the room. She yelped in pain but did not fight back as she was dragged over to Adeyemi's desk. He bent her over the table, pushing her face down into a pile of papers. "Are you ready for my counter-offer?" demanded Adeyemi. "I come under a flag of peace. You can't do this," she protested. She tried to straighten up, but Adeyemi shoved her back down. I asked you if you were ready for my counteroffer, repeated Adeyemi calmly. I didn't ask for permission to take you, as I don't need it. So are you ready, my lovely negotiator? I'm sure your queen gave you instructions to do whatever it takes to stop this war. You don't want to go back to her with news of your failure now, do you? The negotiator hesitated a moment. I am ready for your counteroffer, she said softly after a moment longer. Adeyemi let her go, took her by her arm, walked her into a bedroom beside the large room, and laid with her. This king is peculiar, settling disputes by taking negotiators to bed. He spoke to her while they were in bed, after fulfilling his heart desire of having her. If your queen wants me to call off my forces and spare her life and the miserable lives of what's left of her army, she will completely surrender to me, Adeyemi told the indignant negotiator as she rested up beside him. All Dahomey lands apart from the Queen's palace itself will be turned over to my rulership. Adeyemi's head was spinning. The feeling of power from what he was doing was incredible. The newly crowned king continued to dish out orders and instructions, intoxicated with power. I don't know if the queen will accept such an offer, stammered the negotiator, gasping from how much of a stallion the king was in his bedroom. I haven't finished. Zrania, the queen will also give me half of her treasury of gold and valuables, and she will give me 100 female slaves, not males. Adeyemi was over the top, his powers making him excited in his nether regions. King Adeyemi led the negotiator out and moved back to the meeting room and his huge desk. He gave her a seat in front of him. If your queen accepts my deal to make it valid, she will have to come and visit me at my palace, said Adeyemi. If your queen wants her people to be spared, she will walk right up to the foot of my throne, get down on her knees. Adeyemi paused briefly for effect, and then she will offer herself to me in marriage.